Record. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Well, welcome everyone. What is this, our sixth class, I believe? We just finished up chapter 4, and some of the key concepts are this. I wouldn't call it a bifurcation, but there's two ways of expression that Hashem expresses. One is his light, the or, that emanates from his attribute of chesed. And then there is the kalim, which is Hebrew for vessel, and that emanates from the gevura and is the aspect of tzimtzum, or concealment. So it contains the light. And from our perspective, it is this gevura aspect that everyone sees. We all see this concealment of Hashem. And let's start chapter 5 here. So, well, you know what? Let's go. Let's hear anything that we want to go over real quick. Well, we talked about Atik Yomin, the revelation of divine light, and the life force, on the other hand, both emanate from the level of Atik Yomin. And we talked about that a little bit. How the level of Atzilus, I don't believe there is a concealment there. And everything is nullified within its source at that level. Chapter 5. Okay, hopefully we'll go over a better review than what I just gave. Let's see here. Thanks to God's attribute of gevura and his capacity for tzimtzum, as the Alter Rebbe explained in the foregoing chapter, created beings live in the illusion that they possess an independent and tangible existence. They are unaware of the divine life force continuously found within them. So we live in that illusion, basically, which is interesting. Being thus insensitive to the force that animates them, they are able to think of themselves as existing independently of their source. They fail to perceive that in truth they are but a diffusion of the rays of their source, like the diffusion of the sun's rays as they are found within the sun. Concerning this, i.e., concerning the concept that all of creation came about through the process of tzimtzum, which enables created beings to believe that they enjoy an independent form of existence, our sages of blessed memory said, originally it arose in God's thought to create the world through the attribute of stern judgment, through the attribute of tzimtzum and gevura. He saw, however, that in this manner the world could not endure. He associated the attribute of mercy in its creation. Interesting. At first glance, this is incomprehensible. God desires to act with goodness, to treat his creatures benevolently. Why then did he first plan to create the world through the attribute of strict justice? Strict justice, I'm assuming that would be translated as gevura. According to what has been explained above, this is entirely understandable. In order for created beings to believe that they possess independent existence, there must be the process of tzimtzum, which is an expression of the stern attribute of gevura. Without it, all of creation would be completely nullified within its source. God, however, desired that created beings maintain that they possess independent existence in order for them to be able to serve him and ultimately be rewarded for their service. Thus, it is specifically gevura and tzimtzum that enable them to realize the ultimate purpose of creation. Okay, I'm a little lost.
I was just telling my sister that she's on the other side over there with the cross and stuff. But I was telling her that every second is different than any second in our past. And God is thinking this, and it's happening because God is renewing every second. But we're living in it, and we can make decisions. But I that's all I needed to say.
Right. So that's an interesting point. Hashem he's constantly renewing every single moment. And for us, it seems as if time just keeps on dragging on, right? As everything is brand new, but from Hashem's perspective, he's constantly creating. And not only that, but if he were to retract his Gevura, everything would go back to its original source, which is very interesting. Because from Robbie, like their perspective, so to speak, they believe God is over there. They believe God is done creating and he's resting or he's there. And they see
Right.
themselves as this separate existence.
Well,
And
see, he has to continue to create, James, because he's constantly breathing breath into us. If he didn't do that, this is what would cause all that to just evaporate.
right.
And from what I understand, this justice starts in Binah, that he went from Hesed to Binah. This is the creation of Binah, and Gevuru separates down from that and then Hod after it.
Interesting. Well, we'll see if he talks about it because that is an
Yeah.
interesting concept. We got Chesed, Bina, and
Well,
Da'at.
Hesed is remember, Keter goes to Hesed,
Mm-hmm.
Chokmah. Keter goes to Chokmah,
Mm-hmm.
then to Bina.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, everything separates down.
Mm-hmm. And one of those, I think, bridges the two. The two
Well, of course,
areas.
there's the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet bridges all of these. Like Vav is between Keter and Bina. I'm trying to think, Teresa, what's between Keter and Hokmah? Each one of those, if you look at the Sephardic setup,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see the alphabet, the pathways
Mm-hmm.
that connect all of these Sephiot in the three columns in this creation.
Mm-hmm.
The past world was the creation of points, circles. We are in the creation of columns. And the Hebrew letters connect all of these Sephiot. And you'll see them when you look at the Sephirotic, when you see the pattern written out.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen them, right? You know
Right.
what I'm talking about.
Yes. Right. I've
Okay,
seen it.
so each one of those alphabetic letters connects certain Sephiot to each other, and that's a pathway. That letter itself is a pathway from one Sephiot to the other. They can be meditated on. They can be, I mean, I don't want to get off into all the stuff that can happen and that you can do to learn what Hashem is thinking from his point of view. But
It's a
that's why I
lot.
said Binah. And if you talk, every rabbinical teacher that I've had has said that we are in Binah, that everything comes for Binah, comes down through Gevarot to Yesod and then down to Malkut. Okay.
Okay.
Did I miss anything, Russ? Russell, did I miss it?
Already.
He's not answering me.
So let's see here. The original plan for creation, therefore, was it should be dominated by the attribute of stern judgment. When, however, God saw that if he created the world in this manner, it could not endure, he tempered it by the attribute of mercy. Okay, so that's what I was confused on. Okay, so it's not talking about he's not using Gavura. He was talking about completely using just Gavura.
Right.
Right.
See, and so Binah has mercy in it. You see, even though she is the attribute of justice in Yitzhak, there it comes down from there.
Is being on the same pillar of Gavura?
Yeah, she's above it. She and Hokmah and Keter are in that top triad. And then you drop down to the children, the lower six.
Mm-hmm.
And then that still leaves Malkut after that. So this is what he's talking about. If he did that, the justice would be too much, that the mercy, so he had to mix them. That's why Binah has mercy and justice in her.
Okay.
Russell, please.
Yeah,
All
I was busy looking for something here, but
right.
yeah, you know, it's because each spherot has a spherot within it. So you have the Hesed of Bina and the Guvra of Bina. So they all have the aspects within it. It's just it's the attribute within that particular attribute. And so it does have um loving kindness in it, and it does have stern justice in it as well. The balance of that within uh, Bina is the Tiferet of Bina.
Yep.
Very good. Why indeed would the world not be able to endure otherwise? Because if creation had come about under such auspices alone, the life force of holiness would have been utterly hidden. Oh, okay. Okay. Accordingly, the spiritual task of revealing godliness in such a world would have been inordinately arduous. Okay, the shell, the klipa, maybe I shouldn't say klipa,
Yeah.
but
Well, I think the shell is Klipa is a good analog.
yeah,
It's a good analog,
yeah. I
James.
want to watch my words because he doesn't bring it up, so I don't want to misspeak. But yeah, like there's no noga right there. There's no light emitting through something that's really covered up, really concealed. This takes too much energy and effort to break and to elevate that godliness. Um, so let's see here. According to the spiritual task of revealing godliness in such a world would have been inordinately arduous. Yes, very hard. God therefore involved the attribute of mercy in the creation of the world so that holiness and godliness could be revealed within it. Okay. That is, i.e., he combined with the attribute of mercy. So he combined with it the attribute of mercy, means the revelation within the world of godliness and of supernal power through the tzaddikim and through the signs and miracles recorded in the Torah. Okay. It was stated in the previous chapter that both the expansive and creative attributes of Hesed and the concealing and constrictive attributes of Gevura transcend the grasp of created beings. So yeah, so both sides, we do not understand the depths of these two sides, Hesed and Gevura. We cannot comprehend them completely. Here, the Alter Rebbe adds that these attributes transcend even the comprehension of those souls that proceed from the level of Atzilus. Even so lofty a soul as Moshe, which is a soul of the world of Atzilus, cannot.
Atzilut. Atzilut.
Already. Atzilut. cannot fathom
I
this.
think it's a little Ashkenazi there.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure, but
yeah. She's just
So,
halfway messing with me, right? um. So this, which is a soul of the world of Atzilut, Moshe cannot fathom the supernal attributes which are one with God Himself. So with that proceed from the level. Okay. So I think what they're talking about is so Atzilut, Atzilus, literally emanation. In Kabbalistic terminology, the highest of the four spiritual worlds, the realm of spiritual existence, which, although encompassing attributes which have a specific definition, is in a state of infinity and at one with the infinite divine light. So I think from this wording, and this is part of the lessons in Tanya commentary, Moshe was proceeded from the level of Atzilus, like he was born from it, I guess. Because if not, if you were in it, Atzilut, you would be one in that divine infinite light. There's no separation, I believe, in the world of Atzilut. Regarding this, i.e., regarding the fact that the attributes of Hesed and Gevura transcend intellect, it was stated in the Zohar, above in the side of supernal holiness, i.e., in the world of Atzilut, which is far superior to the three worlds of Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiya. There is right and left, namely Chesed and Gevura. Okay. The attributes of Chesed and Gevura transcend intellect. We've talked about that. Above in the side of supernal holiness, i.e., in the world of Atzilus, which is far superior. Okay. So there is apparently a right and left side still in Atzilut. As I guess that's what I'm gathering. The statement was surely not written simply to inform us that Chesed and Gevura exist, for this is already well known. Rather, this means that both Gevura as well as Chesed are attributes of godliness that transcend the intellect and comprehension of created beings. The fact that they are supernal attributes also help us understand how they are able to combine when, by definition, they are opposites. Within the side of supernal holiness, there is no dissonance, God forbid, for all its components are complementary and integrated. At that level, Hesed and Gevura, though opposite by nature, coexist and conjoin as two opposites within a unity. So that explains what my confusion was, like how at the level of Atzilus can you have a seemingly disunity. This is possible because of their complete and total union with God. Okay, so he's answering my questions, right? So I've got questions and he's answering in them within the next sentence or paragraph, basically. So that means we're on the right track. It also means the Alter Rebbe is a really good teacher, right? We were talking in B class. I go to a beekeepers meeting and we were talking about this guy, he's like 80, 90 years old. And he's got his answer already ready. He's already answering you even though you haven't finished your question because he knows what you're going to say.
Yeah.
that seems to be the case of the brilliant ones.
Yeah. For he and his attributes are one in the world of Atzilut. Very good. So that's what I was kind of thinking. Both Chesed and Gevura being thus wholly united within him. Okay. Even the comprehension of Moshe, our teacher, peace unto him, and his prophetic vision did not extend to the world of Atzilut himself, except through its being clothed in the world of Beriah.
Moshe came from Berea. That's why you think, he transcended Atzilut every time he came face to face with Hashem. But he did because of the water. Remember, Moshe was put in the water. All of that works together, James.
Interesting. Maybe that's from the waters of Atzilus.
Mm-hmm. As they flow through Berea.
Maybe that has something going on here.
He'll probably tell us down the road here.
Maybe, yeah. Well, you're actually right. The Alter Rebbe does talk about water quite a bit on these on the higher levels, particularly I think of Chesed. But we'll see.
Because the name heaven or heavens, the root of that is mayim, water.
Yeah, Hashemayim, the place of waters.
Yep.
Very good. So his visions, Moshe's visions, his prophetic visions, did not extend to the world of Atzilut, except through its being clothed in the world of Bria. So he didn't go into it except for through being clothed in Berea. And even then, his comprehension of the world of Atzilut did not extend to these two attributes, Chesed and Gevura. So his comprehension of the world of Atzilus did not extend to the attributes of Chesed and Gevura. Okay. But only insofar as they were previously clothed in the attributes, which are of lower levels than themselves, the attributes of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. The attribute of Netzach being merely an offshoot of Chesed, and Hod an offshoot of Gevura, Linda. And this is what you were talking about. So that through them, Chesed and Gevura percolate down into Yesod, which in turn transmits its influence to yet lower levels.
Absolutely, that's what I was saying.
There you go.
James,
Yep.
yes.
Yes.
Could we go back up to and look at the footnote on 4?
Sure. Excellent. Right here.
Yes.
Note by the Rebbe, according to that which is explained in Igris Igret HaKodesh for Linda, Epistle, Epistle 19. I always get a kick out of that when they say epistle. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It is clear that
by the Christians.
yeah, it's like, what's going on? It is clear that this does not preclude the comprehension of a higher level, for there have been souls whose comprehension has reached up to Chokmah and Bina. Rather, the comprehension of Chesed and Gevura, the source of creation and its Simsum, which is the matter at hand, became possible only through their being clothed in Netzach, Hod, and Yesod.
Wow.
Interesting.
See, the lower 6, the children help the parents.
Mm-hmm.
The lower 6 are called the children sometimes of Keter, Chokmah, and Bina. And so they help their parents get the message out.
But even then, Chesed and Gevura, so they're saying that Chesed and Gevura are unique. They're saying you can understand Chochmah and Bina. But
you can understand a little bit, but not the true comprehension is way past what we've got.
Well, this is talking specifically about Chesed and Gevura.
Yeah, the source of creation and the Zimzum.
Yeah.
And it depends on how much he's going to show each individual of that particular, of all those attributes.
So it's just very interesting. It's a good point that we read that footnote, Teresa.
Thank you,
Um,
Teresa.
yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah,
I
She's
that's
a
I just found it
she's a
very
foot
interesting.
yeah, that is. That's very
she's a
interesting.
footnote person.
We'll have to,
She is a footnote person.
that's how yeah, reading footnotes, that's how you understand it inside better. Uh, or even actually understand it, particularly if you're reading from the English. Like, if it wasn't for footnotes, I would have been lost. Okay, as is explained in Sha'ar HaNevuah. Oh, the gate of prophecy, I guess, concerning the level of Moshe's prophecy. It is only the tzaddikim in Gan Eden who are granted the reward of comprehending the spreading forth of the life force and light which issues from these two attributes, Chesed and Gevura. Interesting.
So we got to get to Gan Eden before we get the full picture.
Yeah, there's a few things there, huh? It's
Just a
the
couple.
tzaddik thing might be the hard thing for me.
Oh, well, won't even go there.
This comprehension, the spreading forth of life, force, and light, which issues from these two attributes, is the food of the souls of the tzaddikim who, in this world, engaged in the study of the Torah for its own sake. She'asek, okay, very important for everyone, but particularly for non-Jews. She'asek betorah. She'asek betorah. That's important. It's different than Lamud Torah. There are people who say, "Oh yeah, of course you can study Torah," but a lot of people they'll say they're talking about Lamud. It's like you're studying for a test. You're not really deeply involving yourself. It's just you're trying to memorize it to do some kind of task or whatever. Osake is different. It's involving yourself, losing yourself in the wisdom of the Torah, trying
It's
to
an immersion. It's
yes,
an immersion.
yeah, and this is very important for non-Jews to know.
And James, what is that exactly? What is the word? How do you pronounce those words in
Oh
English?
yeah, excellent.
Transliteration.
Yeah. Let's actually, we're just we'll copy and paste, and then we will
Put
where's
it
my?
on our list.
I'm sorry.
And put it in our little list.
Yes. This is very important because a non-Jew goy she'asek beTorah is hive misa. Goy, and of course I would translate that differently than how many people translate it. People would say, "Oh, it's all non-Jews. Goy is all non-Jews." I don't want to get into it in detail, but it's clear from the Rambam. He's talking about Akum. He's talking about a servant of the stars and constellations, which is what we would call basically a idol worshiper. That type of person is forbidden to involve in the study of Torah. For obvious reasons, they should only be involved first in the seven, and the Rambam explicitly says they should only be involved in the seven. This is derived from Bava Kama and I think Sanhedrin, Bava Kama 38. But point is, this word right here is she'asek, she, and I'll try and transliterate it out for you. To involve yourself in Torah. Um, critical concept for every
Thank you.
human being. Involve yourself in Torah. Involve yourself in Torah. And even like let's say, heaven forbid, you are an idolater, then involve yourself in the seven. But involve yourself in the seven that are in the Torah. Like get past that point of idolatry. God willing. Every human being should be doing this. So at some level. Okay. Reason why I bring it up is because the Alter Rebbe, in his work, the Tanya, he talks about Osek and Torah quite a bit, and it's a deep concept. And it's something like we just talked about earlier, looking in the footnotes. Let's look inside. Let's see what it really says. Don't pay attention to the translation so much unless you have to. I know I do quite a bit, 90% of the time, but I pick through the Hebrew when I can. Very important. And you will learn Hebrew a little bit as you go. Lishma, very important. Lishma, for the sake of heaven. Ask somebody, can I do a mitzvah lishma? Can I do tzedakah lishma? I hope I'm not taking too much time here, but I think that's
No, this is
accurate.
very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is an acronym. How many times have you heard that didn't do it what I wanted to do? But how many times have you heard you can't give tzedakah for the sake of heaven? You can give it for a reward, or you can if you have how do I put this? Certain non-Jewish books written for non-Jews. It will say that you can only do things for a reward, for scar. You cannot do things for the sake of heaven. So this is very important to know. Oh, for non-Jews as well. This will, if you understand these concepts, lishma, for the sake of heaven, and if you understand she'asik b'Torah, or just say she'asik, you're involving yourself. This is critical. Why am I doing this? And I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but just part of my like life and experience, like living in the community. These two concepts are very big for the non-Jew. What separates you from other non-Jews? Are you doing things for the sake of the world? Are you doing things for the sake of a reward? Or are you doing things for the sake of heaven? Because there are some books that are written towards non-Jews that will say you can't do things for the sake of heaven. You can only do things for the sake of a reward. If you try and do an extra mitzvah, like honoring your parents, they'll say, oh, no, they'll beat around the bush. And they'll say, well, technically, though, you're doing it for the sake of the world, not for the sake of heaven. You say, no, I want to do it for the sake of heaven. They won't have an answer for you. The Torah does. The Torah has an answer, but those books will not give you the answer
To
because
those books, I say hogwash.
they're not ready for it yet. They're not ready.
They're not ready. That
Well,
doesn't mean Hashem isn't ready for us to do it for the sake of heaven.
We're all in a refining state right now. We're in the twilight, the footsteps of Mashiach, and this is what we're getting into right now, the Alter Rebbe. And that's why I really wanted to facilitate and bringing you guys to this stuff, because I think you guys already know a bit of it, but it helps to clarify and get into the sources here, get into the text. Because the Alter Rebbe, She'asek B'Torah, is key to just about everything. It's key to Chabad. It's key to Chokmah Bina Das. And you can say, well, as a non-Jew, maybe I'm only doing it for the 7. That's still Torah. So if somebody's arguing against that with you, it's a catch-22 for them, because the Rambam clearly says that you can osake in Torah, even if somebody considers you an idolater, you can osake in the Torah, at least in the 7. Nonetheless, that's 7. That's the Torah. So you can unite with the mind of Hashem.
Well, doesn't it say in the prophecies? I'm trying to remember which prophet it was because we've been studying so many. Doesn't it? There is a prophet who quoted Hashem, who's saying, if they had even done the 7, I could have had mercy on them. And he was talking about the world. but they did not do the 7, let alone the Torah, so which means we can do the Torah.
Yeah, it might have been Bava Kama. Yeah, like it forces you, right, Linda? I don't want to get too much in a tangent, but
Yeah.
we have to. We have to do the Torah to some extent. If not, we're creating what's called a Hidush Da'at, a new religion, and that's forbidden. We have to be involved in the Torah. Either you're going to call me an idolater and tell me to keep the 7, which isn't right. There's mutual exclusivity there. If I say yes, I'm keeping the 7, then you can't call me an idolater. Or you're just going to keep on beating me up for being an idolater, even though I'm saying, please have mercy.
Well, then that person beating you up, the next time he's retransmigrates, he'll be a Gentile too.
Maybe
So,
that's how it works.
he's putting himself on the razor's edge there.
Maybe that's how it works.
No, that is how it works. That is mikta da mikta.
Yeah. So, very important. She'asek b'Torah, involving in Torah. For from the diffusion of these 2 attributes, a firmament, i.e., an or makif, hovering light, a transcendental, literally encompassing degree of illumination. It's a hovering light, basically. It's not inside. There's or makif and or panimi. There's a encompassing surrounding light, and then there's an inner penetrating light, basically. This is spread over the souls in Gan Eden. So we're not talking. Okay, so let's back up here. We just talked about Siddiqim. They're in Gan Eden. It appears that the Alter Rebbe is saying that these Siddiqim are still in the Or Makif. Well, what happens about the Or Panimi? We'll get to that, I'm sure. And it is this firmament that empowers them to receive this diffusion. The firmament is called interesting. Russ, if you're listening, we just got done talking about Rise and Derisa with the Ruggich of Gaon. That book is called Raz and Derisa. So it's somehow a play on his name. I'm not smart enough to understand. I don't understand enough. But sometimes rabbis, they play with words and they make things kind of funny, but at the same time, they're like memes almost. Anyways, this is one of those. So this firmament is called Raza Deraita, the secret of the Torah, i.e., the mystical dimension of the Torah. Within this firmament is the secret of the 22 letters of the Torah, which derive from an even higher level than the rational and comprehensible aspect of the Torah, which was given as an expression of these 2 attributes. Okay, so I'm going to express this in my own way. I could be wrong. You have the Torah. It is awesome, but it is comprised of these letters. And so the letters are at a higher level.
They have different levels.
So those letters derive from an even higher level than the rational and comprehensible aspect of the Torah. And we talked about that. The Alter Rebbe talks about how they get permutated and they can move and things like this.
They can dance.
It is, yeah, it's like the lower substance of something. It's like chemistry. As it is written, from his right hand he gave unto them a fiery law. Devarim 33:2, or Linda Devarim. Okay, I'll try to get my pronunciation more Israeli.
Don't let me bother you.
No, I'm just giving her a hard time. The right hand represents Hesed, while fiery alludes to the element of Gevura that is present in the Torah. Very good. We talked about in our Parsha study, there's Hesed. coolness. The
Mhm.
waters come from an area of chesed. Well, we were talking about burnt offerings. We talk about burnt offerings this parsha, the fiery aspects. Well, when the things ascend, it gets mitigated by the waters above. From this
But
firmament,
it goes up to deal with your sin, so it's fiery, which is why you have the aspect and the element of Gevura in your sacrifice.
interesting. From this firmament, from this transcendental illumination, drops dew, symbolic of the esoteric insights of the Torah as food for the souls. Very interesting. There are two types of waters, I believe, that come from heaven. One of them's a rain, and then the other is a dew.
Dew
Very
of
cool.
resurrection, dew of life, the
They're
dew.
Yeah, and those two types of waters, I believe, are different.
The two types of dews are different.
Oh, there you go. We talked about the orpanimi, i.e. an orpanimi, a degree of illumination that can be internalized and comprehended, issues forth from the firmament, an inner aspect, a person of inner integrity. Interesting, a degree. Okay. Being comprehensible, this level of perception is likened to food, which is ingested internally. Interesting.
Is he alluding to the fact that that the Malkumim and the higher beings in the higher worlds eat by smell? Is that what he's talking about here? This level of
Maybe,
perception is,
but I don't know if they are or panini or they or makif.
well, it depends on the world.
Right, because we have, as human beings, we kind of have a one up on angels in a way.
As long as we're down here, we don't, but up there we do. So, it
Well,
depends if we make the Zadik.
Yeah.
If we get to the Zadik level, then we're one up. But
i.e., a knowledge of the secret of the 22 letters of the Torah. For this firmament is the secret and level of knowledge, da'at. And the dew that issues forth from it is the knowledge of the secret of the 22 letters of Torah. Interesting. For this firmament is the secret.
so the dew is a da'at, is a form of da'at. How interesting.
Now, what is he talking about for this firmament? Is he talking about the makif?
Well, he said this firmament is the secret and level of da'at. So what's the firmament? We have to go back up and read again what the firmament is.
I think he's referring to makif.
Dew, the residue, the dew is associated with the loose bone is the Torah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what he's saying, but there's the firmament above, which he's taking as the letters of the Torah. In other words, you have your letters, and then you permute
It
them,
says
you
the
put them in a
diffusion
certain
of
order,
these
and then
two
you'll have the Torah.
attributes. Here it is. From the
Oh,
diffusion of these two attributes, a firmament,
there you go.
a
Yes.
transcendental degree of illumination is spread. Okay, it becomes a firmament. The diffusion of these two attributes, what he's saying is it becomes a firmament that spreads over the souls in Garim, the
Very good.
Zadikim.
Yeah.
And this firmament empowers them to receive the diffusion. Okay, interesting. Sort of like fertilizer. Sort of like fertilizer on a garden.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, I mean, my goodness. Which enlightens and empowers them. Interesting.
Drops of dew. Okay. Okay, and the Torah is the food of the souls in Gan Eden, and the commandments are their garments. Okay, he introduces another aspect here. So the commandments from the Torah are the garments for of the souls that are in Gan Eden.
So if you didn't keep one commandment, you couldn't enter Gan Eden because you would be naked.
Interesting.
That's a
very
very
interesting.
powerful concept.
And this will be explained and as all this is explained. Okay. Okay. So let's see here. Torah is the food for the souls in Gan Eden. The commandments are the garments. Okay. Very good. Okay. We thus see the attributes of Chesed and Gevura of the world of Atzilut that transcend not only the comprehension of created beings, but even souls of the level of Atzilut cannot comprehend them. Only as a reward are the souls in Gan Eden enabled to comprehend a mere diffusion of these attributes.
Ah,
Okay. Commentary on the Rebbe. Oh, this is probably going to be long. Okay. So we were just introduced with a lot. And so the lessons in Tanya is going to bring in commentary of the Rebbe on the conclusion of chapter 4 and here in chapter 5. If I remember correctly, this is kind of long. The entire 5th chapter of Shar HaYehud Ve'emunah, the gate of the unity and the faith, as well as the conclusion of the 4th chapter, do not at all appear to advance our understanding of the concept of divine unity. Chapter 4 concludes by explaining that the life force is termed or light, and the Tzimtzum is termed kalim, vessels. It goes on to state that the kalim originated from the 5 consonants Manatzapach, and that they have an additional, even higher source, Gevura of Atik. Correspondingly, Chesed of Atik is the source of the attribute of Chesed of Atzilut. Interesting. At first glance, these seem to be strictly Kabbalistic concepts that have absolutely no bearing on our understanding of divine unity, especially as the Alter Rebbe endeavors to explain it in a manner that will make it very near to you. Because right now it's almost getting more confusing, honestly. I'm having a hard time keeping in line all of these concepts.
well, that's the point of it, and that's why you only take it a small bite of steak at a time,
Right.
James.
Right.
And that's why Teresa and I, when we study, you all can feel sorry for Teresa because when we study, I drag her back. I'm going to understand it before I go to the next bite of steak. I'm going to chew it up and understand it.
I think it was a you're supposed to, right? You're supposed to
Well, it
digest.
means that you read it, you chew it up, you look at it, you read it 2 or 3 times while you're there, and then you take a break. And during the week, if you're smart, you go back and you read it again.
Yeah. And the Alter Rebbe writes like that. If you notice, he goes over.
Yeah,
He
you've got
goes
to
over
do
and
it
over.
so that you get all your little chicks and ducks as much in a row as your mind can handle.
Right. Excellent. Excuse me. At first glance, these seem to be strictly Kabbalistic concepts that have absolutely no bearing on our understanding of divine unity, especially as the Alter Rebbe endeavors to explain it in a manner that will make it very near to you. I already read that, James. Okay. Although the conclusion of chapter 4 is enclosed in brackets, the Alter Rebbe nevertheless chose to incorporate it in the body of the Tanya, rather than relegating it to a marginal note, as with many comments in the first part of the book as well as the second part. This indicates that even the bracketed text must be directly related to the general theme of the work. The same question applies to the whole of the 5th chapter. It deals throughout with matters that seemingly have no connection with the concept of divine unity. The Alter Rebbe first explains a midrash, then the levels of Moses' comprehension of divinity, and finally the level of Gan Eden. Since none of these seem to be related to divine unity, why did the Alter Rebbe include it in Shar HaYechud Ve'emunah? It is indeed true that many subjects obliquely alluded to in the Tanya are not directly related in their simple context to making its stated goal very near, nor do they appear to be directly related to the subject of unity and faith. Witness the many points quoted from the Tanya and explained in various Hasidic discourses at length, whereas in the Tanya itself they are only hinted at. Nevertheless, these are matters which are only alluded to obliquely. Those topics, however, that are plain for all to see must clearly be connected to the overall theme of the book. This is similar to the written Torah in general, and especially according to the commentary of Rashi on the Chumash. Although many interpretations are alluded to there on the homiletical and mystical levels of Remez, Drush, and Sod, it is nevertheless a principle sanctioned by law than in the revealed context. A verse does not depart from its plain meaning. A verse will not get away from its peshat. And it is this peshat, this plain or literal meaning, that the commentary of Rashi seeks to explain. This is very, if you're talking with some people who use the Tanakh for other things, you're not supposed to get away from the Peshat. You can't take Midrash and turn it into Peshat like some people do.
That's why they say, let the Peshat be the Peshat. That's one of the reasons why they say that.
The same is true of the Tanya, which is the written Torah of Hasidus. Although all aspects of the Torah are to be bound within it, it always retains its simple meaning, as Peshat is to be understood in the context of the esoteric dimension of the Torah. Hence, all subjects appearing in the Tanya must be connected with the general theme of the book. They must all be very nigh. They must all explain unity and faith, and they must do so in a manner that enables one to train a child in them all. Those subjects that do not meet these criteria never found their way into the Tanya. In the words of the Rabbi Sholem Dovber, the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, Tanya is like the Chumash, which is understood. Accordingly, it is very difficult to understand how the topics discussed at the conclusion of chapter 4 and throughout chapter 5 found a place in Shar HaYechud Ve'emunah. We must therefore say that they deepen our understanding of the theme of unity, as shall soon be explained. And that's one of the things that I found fascinating with this work, is that you have to understand this at a deeper level, because there are a lot of beliefs out there that like we've mentioned, Hashem is over there, God's over there, we're over here. Well, if the Tanya didn't go into the depth of how that is wrong, then we wouldn't have an understanding of it. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't come up with that on your own or whatever, but I mean, the Alter Rebbe did a fascinating thing here. The first chapter of this book explains how each individual created being has within it letters of the 10 divine utterances, which continuously create it and provide it with life. The third chapter goes on to explain that since these creative letters are constantly found within the created being, it is always in a state of absorption within them, similar to the light of the sun within the globe. This absorption, I'm wondering if that is the combination of the Gevura and Chesed, how they can be one, yet seemingly separate from our comprehension. But in reality, the created being is thus completely nullified out of existence. The reason that the created being perceives itself as possessing independent existence is explained by the Alter Rebbe in the 4th chapter. Only because of Tzimtzum, by which God conceals and contracts his life force so that the created being should not be aware of it, does that being appear and perceive itself to be a separate entity. If, however, the eye were permitted to see, then the physicality, materiality, and tangibility of the creature would not be seen by our eyes at all. However, this does not suffice. Although it is true that God caused this concealment, yet man, as an intelligent being, should surely use his mind's eye to see through the concealment. Oh, very good. His understanding should inevitably lead him to the realization that the sensation that he is completely nullified within his source. Very, very cool. So we do have maybe something to us that allows us to see this. As I'm sure you guys have seen as we've been reading, but the Alter Rebbe answers this question by stating in chapter 3 that a created being feels that he exists because we do not comprehend nor see with our physical eyes the power of God and the breath of his mouth, which is in the created thing. Thus, it is man's very corporeality that blinds him to the divine life force contained within every created being. So we have a mind's eye and then we have our physical eyes.
So the rabbis who can look at you and know what's going on with you are using their mind's eye through the Hesed and Gevurah that they're being fed to see you.
But the cool thing is they're also using their physical eyes.
Well, yeah, but
So they have
mostly if it's to deal with you, they're using their mind's eye.
but they have to know you first.
Do they? That's
yeah.
why when he came out of that's why when the guys who wrote the Zohar came out and they saw the guy and he died, they went back in because they needed to study a little more. Think about it. Doesn't that fit everything the Alter Rebbe's talking here about?
We'll see here. We'll see.
Yeah.
This whole subject, as explained until the end of the 4th chapter, poses numerous difficulties regarding fundamental aspects of divine unity. And without the explanations furnished at the end of the 4th chapter and the whole of the 5th chapter, these questions cannot be answered. So I've always had a kind of a hard time with this area of the Tanya because I don't want to say it's tedious, but man, it is like A equals B equals C. Therefore, A equals C. Well, he does that in multiple chains, it seems like, and it's complex.
Of course it is, because everything was created with math, and the letters are math, they're numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to start getting them to dance and do all this stuff, all these math equations from physics fit.
And maybe only in the world of Sia. The following are the questions. Okay. Each creature is animated by different letters from among the 10 utterances. For as explained in chapter 1, the life force descends through numerous combinations and substitutions of these divine creative letters until it is clothed in each particular creature. It should therefore seem that there exists, God forbid, a multiplicity of godliness with a number of letters equaling the number of creatures. In fact, the multitude of letters is even greater than the number of created beings. For as explained in chapter 1, many letters are invested within each creature. This seeming multitude of godliness would appear to be the very antithesis of divine unity. Moreover,
It's more than that. It's more than that because each created creature comes down through different constellations. And they go back up through different constellations to go and return to where they came from. And as Teresa and I were just studying, a Jewish person is to be read 122 different pasuks at 3 different stages of death and dying to help them facilitate their return because of these letters that are in them. 3 different sets of 122 pasuks out of the Torah at 3 different stages of death to help them return carefully to where they came from. That explains this above paragraph.
interesting. Moreover, the question specifically arises out of the Alter Rebbe's explanation. There are those who mistakenly understood the doctrine of Tzimtzum in a literal sense, as if God actually removed his presence from this world. If we were to assume their view, then there would be no problem, for we could then say, as they do, the following: God is indeed a complete unity, but his relation to the proliferation in the created universe is that of a king who sits in his palace and gazes at a garbage heap outside. So that's kind of what I would describe as deism.
Mm.
And a lot of I believe the founding fathers of the United States kind of had that kind of deistic view. However, according to the explanation in the Tanya, that forever, O God, your word stands firm in the heavens, i.e., that letters of the 10 utterances are clothed within each individual creature. There arises the question, how can there possibly be a multiplicity in godliness? We cannot answer that the multiplicity results from the attribute of Gevura of the divine name Elohim. For as explained in chapter 4, until the bracketed ending, the Tzimtzum, which comes from the name Elohim, adds nothing to creation itself. It merely acts as a barrier and concealment so that the life force will not be felt by the created being. This prevents the creature from being wholly nullified within its source, enabling it instead to feel its own separate and distinct existence. The life force itself emanates strictly from the utterance of the divine name Havaya. This is also why in chapter 3, the Alter Rebbe likens the created being to the sun's rays and the life force to the sun itself. For the source of the life force within the creature, i.e. the letters, is the sun, in quotes, it's not actually the sun, of Havaya. It would thus seem that the multiplicity in the universe does not result from the name Elohim, a name which utilizes the plural form, but from the name Havaya itself. This would seem to imply that in Havaya as well, there is multiplicity. This prompts the question, how many sons, divine providences, are there? And B, according to the Alter Rebbe's explanation, created beings are in reality found within their source. They perceive themselves as existing separately from it merely because of the concealment of Tzimtzum. In reality, however, they are godliness. Therefore, if the eye were permitted to see, we would perceive that they are godly. This gives rise to a cataclysmic question regarding the entire essence of the Torah and mitzvot. So remember, there's the food and the clothing. The purpose of the Torah and mitzvot is to draw down. Okay, I don't know if that's.
Do you really want to go on to that, or do you want to stop there and let people try to observe what you just taught them before you go to mitzvot?
Yeah. Trying to figure out if we're coming up on an hour. Maybe we should go all the way to C and then stop and we'll pick up C later. I used to say We have to bring godliness into the world. But didn't really know what I meant. The truth is, we have to reveal godliness because godliness is already here. It has to be revealed. The purpose of the Torah and mitzvahs is to draw down godliness. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that might be the right term. It might be to reveal godliness into the physical substances with which the mitzvot are performed. This is what is meant by the teaching that only by performing a mitzvah does the physical object become holy. Interesting. Indeed, this concept is implicit in the recitation of blessings before the performance of mitzvot. For the Hebrew word for blessing, bracha, implies the drawing down of godliness within the object with which the mitzvah is performed.
And into the person.
The mitzvah of tefillin, for example, and so too all other mitzvot, all of which are likened to tefillin, is intended to draw down godliness into the physical parchment and ink, etc. Why he says draw down godliness instead of reveal is my question. Now, since the parchment is godly, even before the performance of the mitzvah, how is it possible for a mitzvah originating in the truth of Torah to imply by its effect and by its inherent truth that the parchment is in fact mundane and only by virtue of what is inscribed on it and so on does it begin to become godly? In other words, you have a empty piece of parchment.
And you're going to be drawing down Shefa from different worlds. That's why he says draw down. It's here, but you've got different worlds in different places at different levels, even here in the same directions, north, south, east, west, up and down.
Yeah.
This all the world, everything's here. It's the blessing and the power and the holiness of the person expressing that blessing that draws it down into the object. It draws it down into the person. It takes that person to another world, and it depends on which world they go to, what kind of shefa they're bringing down, even if it's the same mitzvah.
I guess what I'm saying is this. In my life and in my experience, I have seen how Shituf can start, and I see how then just flat out Avodah Zarah can start. And the Rambam talks about this in Hilchot Avodah Zarah. In chapter 1, he talks about how Avodah Zarah got started. And one of this is the language. When you say, and I'm not talking about you, Linda, but just in general, like I was talking about myself, and I have to try and correct my speech on this about bringing godliness down. When you say that, it sounds like God is over there.
He's not.
Right.
I mean, he is right here.
I know.
And
I know you mean that. I know you mean that. But when we or anybody says over there, there's a point A and a point B, I feel like it not only defeats the purpose, but it can lead to Avodah Zarah. In other words, they'll start saying, well, God's over there. Or, and then we need an intermediary, right? Heaven forbid.
no.
But
No.
I'm almost positive that's how it gets started. And so I try to be very
It's
careful.
immediately within where you're standing right now. You have all the worlds, all the dimensions, all the directions. And if you offer a blessing to do a mitzvah, or while you're doing a mitzvah, it's right there. It's within your grasp where you are.
It was actually a Cohen, Chabadnik Cohen. He now I think moved back to Israel, but he corrected me on that. He goes, "You don't get it." He goes, "You don't get it." And of course, it was an Israeli accent, but he's like, and because I said, we got to bring godliness into the world. He goes, "No." I think he might even grab me by the shoulders. Like, no, he's like, you don't get it yet. We're revealing godliness. We are not bringing
Right.
godliness into the world.
Well, James, maybe, and me and Russell was talking about this, and he corrected me on something. I didn't get it at first when he corrected me on it, but I thought about it for a long time, and I was constantly talking about ascending and descending when we're talking about different concepts.
Mhm.
And Russell said, "Well, you need to think of it as running and returning." And I didn't get it at first, but we're studying the Lucate Moharan,
Hmm.
and it talks about it in there in different aspects, different contexts of the teachings.
Mhm.
And by saying ascending and descending, you're saying God's up here, we're down here. When you
Yeah.
say running and returning, you're talking the same plane.
Right.
So,
Excellent.
and it's that thought process, I think. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly 100% what I'm
Right.
talking about, Brad. I try to
And
be,
so I tried to change the words so that he understood what I was trying to say. Yeah,
oh yeah, we know what you're saying, Linda.
okay.
Yeah, don't worry. I just
Okay.
I'm talking about what the Rebbe's saying, or whoever transcribed this. That's my
Yeah.
concern.
Well,
Because how
yeah,
can I don't,
because
yeah, how
God
can you,
is not up there. Why are we
right?
drawing down?
Exactly. That's kind of my point. So
Okay.
let's continue to see here, and I think we're gonna have to stop because if I remember correctly, this is just a huge interjection by the Rebbe to try and give a summary of where we're going, because this is about the part where you're thinking like, where is this going? So it's all part of it, though. It's all part of understanding how Hashem works. Okay. We were
Yeah,
talking
James,
about the fill-in. Go ahead,
there's
Teresa.
there's about 7 more pages till you get to the end of it.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
it's all very interesting.
So Teresa, you're the one who keeps us on track.
Oh,
Is
Oh, she sure does.
C is a good place to stop you? Wouldn't you agree? Like right
yes.
before C? Okay, thank you.
I
Okay,
think so.
excellent. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, we're talking about the mitzvah of tefillin and parchment, how a plain piece of parchment has the potential for the mitzvah. It's possible for a mitzvah originating in the Torah of truth to imply by its effect and by its inherent truth that the parchment is in fact mundane. And only by virtue of what is inscribed on it and so on does it begin to become godly. In fact, it is godly even before this. Very good. This is my point. It is only the corporeal eyes of man that fail to perceive it to be so. Excellent. That's awesome. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
So
Yes.
that's like Vendo was saying that your Tanakh carries a holiness about it.
Well, this would say the tree before it even is printed, words of Torah has an element of holiness to it. Or
Yeah,
maybe not holy, but it is I wouldn't call it holy yet. I want to be accurate. I want to be diuk in what I'm saying. There is godliness in it. Does that make sense? In other words,
yeah.
I'm going to use me as an example. I see a Tanakh. Oh, it's holy. This is the Torah. There's godliness there. If I saw paper that didn't have any letters on it yet, and I just scribble on it, I just do away with it. I'm not realizing the potential of the godliness that can be revealed on that piece of empty paper.
Right on that parchment.
Yeah, right. Very good, Robbie. So I think that's what which is a completely, it's an interesting concept. It's almost kind of hippie-ish. I hate to say it, but it's kind of like there's godliness everywhere. But the truth is that's really what's going on here.
Because it even goes into before the ink is made or what makes the ink. How
Oh,
you
very
make,
good.
just all because you have to have the black and white corresponding so that you can see.
Oh, very good, Teresa. Right. You Yeah, right. It's just the whiteness. It's not until you put black on it that then you see the contrast, and then your physical eyes
Contrast,
have
yeah.
the revelation. Very good. Yes. Excellent. We mortals fail to perceive that truth, the truth. The Torah, however, is true, and its mitzvot are true. Oh man. How then can there possibly be a mitzvah? And the very fact that there is such a mitzvah indicates the truth of the matter of taking parchment and transforming it into godliness, when in reality it was godly even before it was used for a mitzvah. This is like the essence of just Judaism to me, or Torah, whatever you want to call it. This difficulty too springs from the explanation of the Tanya. Were we to say that the doctrine of Tzimtzum is to be understood as its erroneous exponents understand it in its literal sense, as if God literally withdrew his presence from creation, thereafter gazing upon creation from a distance, like the proverbial king through his palace window, that there would be no difficulty. Then there would be no difficulty. However, according to the concept of unity, as explained here in the Tanya, whereby the king himself is found in the place of the parchment or whatever it is, then the difficulty manifests itself. For according to this explanation, the place itself and all its aspects are themselves godliness. If so, it basically is like, what's the purpose then of mitzvahs? If so, what is the meaning of Torah study and performing precepts? What is the point of studying the law that applies to one who exchanges a cow for a donkey? What is the point of performing a mitzvah involving parchment and ink when in reality there is no cow and no donkey, no parchment and no ink, but everything is godliness? What is the significance of the Torah and mitzvahs? Excellent. I love the fact that the Rebbe's going. This is why I have involved myself with Torah. Like, it's not Buddhism or whatever. And forgive me if there's Buddhists listening and I'm not understanding it properly, but a lot of Eastern philosophies, nothing exists, everything is nothing, right? And then you have the Western philosophy that is more of everything's a concrete object. God is over there, we are over here. This objectivism.
That goes back to E equals MC squared. Is God coming in? E being light or God, and it's coming in and back out. It is the square of all material, of all matter. It's you know what I'm saying? It's everything. If you're drinking coffee, you're drinking God.
Well, we're the condensation of godliness. Maybe that's why it's called dew. Dew is condensation. I'm just saying that. I don't know if that's right, but things are condensed. And my point is, when it comes to Torah and mitzvahs, it is the way through Adam, through a human being, to reveal godliness, right? So you have a mind's eye, you have your physical eyes. How do you unite those two bridges? How do you start to interact the physical world that might not be revealed to godliness? They're not with this concept. How do you reveal that? And it is, well, we have yet to answer that question. But the reason why I see it, one of the things I love about Torah is because it helps reveal that. It helps reveal godliness into the world. But with that, I'm going to get off my soapbox or whatever. Does anybody? We are running over, but I wanted to get to a good stopping point. What is everybody? What are your thoughts? I think everybody had excellent input. Excellent input. Everybody had some things that they've been studying that they brought into the class that were paralleled the Alter Rebbe here. It was kind of slow going at first, but man, what a good class. It really just, I think the Rebbe made it really concise, and he really helped express what I was feeling in the middle of this text. Like, where are we going? You know?
Well, James, it was very good, and I'm really enjoying this because when we first got started with this, the way that Tanya was presented to us, it put a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, me too.
Are you talking about before, like you opened this part of the Tanya up?
Years
Right,
and years and
right.
years and years ago, but when we first started on
One,
this path, and
100%.
and so this is really not what I thought the Tanya was. It's very
Exactly.
enlightening. So I really appreciate you
Thank God.
bringing this for
Yes,
us.
thank you
Thank
so much,
God.
James.
Thank
You
you all.
really
And I
introduced me
see,
to.
I
I
can
read
see.
it every day.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's all I was saying.
Thank you for bringing it up, Teresa.
I was
Um,
just going to say that the
yeah.
perspective the Rebbe brings so many different teachings that we've had together, so that we can see it from a different perspective. And it just
Absolutely.
before, when I first started studying Torah, like Teresa, I just, the Tanya just was, oh no, 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 no.
Yeah. Well, we will, and this is still recording, but so I want people to know that we are going to touch on the first part. This is technically the second part of Tanya, but we need to go over this part before we can learn the first part. And usually it's the first part that turns people off, but I understand. And again, this is me saying this as myself, as a human being, but I have seen things in the first part of Tanya that, like for instance, the translations, they do not work in the non-Jewish world. Not only are they wrong, but it gives a bad taste to non-Jews and even to some Jews in the world. Like it is, and the fact that I've seen it mistranslated and then thereby misused, it just breaks my heart because I see people bashing Chabad or whatever, and it's just not right, and it's not meant to be. But we'll get into that more. So, Teresa, thank you so much for telling me that, because that helps me feel and know that what we're doing is the right thing here.
You know,
Because there is.
James, I
You
yeah, I
go ahead,
think you're
Brad.
right. No, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, I
Mhm.
think you're exactly right. I'm reading the first part of the Tanya right now,
Yeah.
just to read, and I think that if you 5 years ago, I would have took it totally different.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I'm at the same time I'm reading this. I'm also reading the Lukatei Moharan, and
Mhm.
I'm doing classes online. Me and Russell's doing a class with the Lukatei Moharan, and if it wasn't for the Tanya that I'm reading, it reveals the Lukatei Moran, and the Lukatei Moran reveals the Tanya.
Yeah, because
It's fascinating how they both work together, and
yeah,
like Linda was saying, it by reading this, it reveals all these other things that we've been studying, and
excellent.
gives you a new perception of the same thing, but it's where you're looking from.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. And if you look at it, where did they come from? They were two different students of the Baal Shem Tov, basically, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And so that's very interesting. That's very cool. And I believe we're doing a big tikkun with this class. There has been so much anti-Semitism, anti-Habadism, whatever you want to call it, because of some mistranslations and misteachings. I hate to say it. And although I'm not an authority figure, I think as everyone here, when we see the actual text, you'll be able to see like what is actually is being said and taught by the Alter Rebbe here, and people will be able to see for themselves like, oh, this is what it means. And so I think we're doing a big tikkun in this class, and we're bringing a different perspective, right? We have a bunch of people watching this that most of us are non-Jewish. We study the Torah, and we're bringing a completely different perspective to it that helps unify humanity when it comes to the Torah. So I feel like we're doing a tikkun on Adam, the not just between non-Jews and Jews, but mankind as a whole, to Adam as a whole, by doing these types of classes. So thank you so much for everybody who's attended, everybody who's watching on YouTube, and for giving it input. I really do appreciate it. And it's not just for me. I'm not doing this for money, but just for posterity, basically. So thank you all for participating.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thanks. I'm gonna stop recording here.